From McGill and Harvard to pioneering educational money management, he's the CEO of KEV Group and a board member at Huron University in Tannenbaum Chat. We're here with Bram Belzberg. Let's talk business. So, I want to start off, Bram, by talking about what your teen years were like growing up in Toronto. And I want to ask the first question, what experiences in your teen years do you feel had to happen to enable your success today?
Life has been a long process of trying to figure myself out, I would say. And my teen years were a huge part of that. When I was younger, I had not a lot of confidence in my own abilities, in my own intelligence, in my own likability. And I felt a lot like I was just trying to keep up with everyone else who seemed to have life a lot easier. And that said, I always knew that I wanted to be in charge of something, or that I would want to take a leadership role in whatever I did. It just seemed natural to me. I always knew that I wanted to be around people, but I didn't know how that would manifest. And it took me a long time, probably until I was 28 or 29, until I knew that I was in the right spot.
You went to McGill for psychology, and you felt like you had this desire for leadership. What brought you to that psychology? Do you always feel like you had that need for business, or was it more general leadership?
So when I was at McGill, I was interested in broad-based learning, understanding the world, understanding people. I took psych with a minor in religious studies because it was fascinating to me, learning how people think, social psychology in particular, but also the science aspect. I really like biology. Earlier on in my career, I was pretty sure I was going to be a psychiatrist. But you need to be able to sit and listen for 8 hours a day. And it didn't strike me that I would be great at that. And also, I took organic chemistry 1 like in third year school and walked out of the first class, and I was like, no, I can't do this. I don't want to go all the way through med school to do this. And I was a little bit lost about what I wanted to do. I summered at Stikeman Elliott as a lawyer, and I thought that was a fascinating experience. The people there are really smart and capable, and the work is great. But it was a very structured environment where you basically had to go 10 years until you could be considered partner. And I didn't know if that was the right path for me. It didn't feel like I could do that for so long. And then after my third year, I did a summer at TD Securities on the trading floor, on the government securities trading floor. And that was the first experience that I felt like I could really do. There was an enormous amount of energy. Things moved really quickly. I love when things move quickly. I tend to talk really fast. I like that. And there was effectively no cap. It was meritocratic in the purest form, right? If you did amazing, you got paid, you got promoted. If you didn't, you got fired. And I always had this feeling my whole life, like the best way I could describe it is like, give me the ball. Like I'm not saying I'm the best player. Like I'm not saying I could do the best things, but like just someone give me an opportunity, because I know I have this drive and I will bust through whatever I have to and work harder than anyone else in order to get to the other side. You asked before about my formative experiences. When I was in grade 9, I started playing rugby. I played all the way through, including at McGill. And I'm not a natural born athlete by any stretch. But part of that is like, determination and hard work plays way more of a role in life than people give it credit for. People think, smarts is really important. Smarts is important at some points, but like hard work, drive, determination, and self-discipline, I would say is a much larger percentage of whatever success I have had has come way more from that than it has otherwise. And rugby teaches you that, like, you just get beat up a lot. Like, you have to just keep on getting up. You have to be okay getting hit. You have to run. Those kind of experiences taught me that. And so when I got to TD, I felt like, here's an opportunity where they're willing to give you the ball like right away. Like investment banking, they give you an enormous amount of responsibility very early on and very quickly. And that spoke to me. So when I got into the beginning of fourth year at McGill, I started applying to every investment bank, every financial firm, every consulting firm that I could apply to. with the hopes of getting a job. And then also, my view is that if you're lucky enough to be able to get a job at a leading place, it increases your optionality in where you want to go. So basically, that's a long way of saying I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I figured that 2 years of what I would consider continued education, investment banking, hard work, living in New York, being amongst really smart, capable people, would keep the most doors open and give me more time to figure out what I wanted to do, and it did do that.
Do you think that if you have the drive, it doesn't necessarily matter what you end up going into?
Yeah, within degrees. There are some places you have to specialize a lot earlier.
Yeah.
Medicine, for example. There are some places you need professional degrees like accounting, so you have to, sort of as I call it, play your hand. You have to make your decisions a lot earlier. And I was always jealous. I had a few friends who knew since they were like in third grade that they wanted to be doctors, and they just planned their whole life to try to be doctors, and it was amazing for them. I always felt like I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I think if you're like me and you don't know what you want to do, then you fall back on drive and determination.
Right.
I also think that undergrad is mostly a place where you learn to think, and you learn independence, and you learn sociability, and that is more true and less true now than it ever has been before. So, it is true in my estimation that kids are maturing a little bit later than they did when I went to school, and so they're not having as much independence until they go to college. So it's really important, I think, for people to go and learn to live on their own, even if things like learn to do your dishes and learn to wash your clothes and stuff, but also learn how to manage your own schedules and your own to-dos without all this support ring around you. But also, university is, to some degree, less valuable than it was many years ago because not everyone, but a lot of people have BAs. And so, when you go to college now, I think you have to come out learning ethics, learning how to think, learning how the world works. Those are all really important things. And if you're lucky enough to know where you want to go afterwards, great. And if not, I don't think there's a huge amount of stress associated with that. You shouldn't beat yourself up too much. Just continue to keep your optionality open, get into the best places you can, work hard, get the best grades you can. And I think, at least for me, I was lucky enough to figure out what I wanted to do as I went through life.
Yeah.
But it was never with a grand plan, let's put it that way. I never started off saying, I'm going to be a CEO of a company, this is what I'm going to do. It never happened that way.
You mentioned before that joining a startup isn't ideal after university. Can you speak to that thought a bit more, and do you still hold that belief?
Yeah, look, everyone has to follow their own path and follow their own heart. I would say if you have a great idea and you know what you want to do and it's brilliant, then follow that as hard and as long as you can and take it through and figure it out. All great ideas start like that, and a lot of them start in high school or even before high school or in college. When I wrote the article for the Globe that you're referring to, it was much more a commentary on the times, which is that when people finished with BAs and didn't know what they wanted to do, they would jump into relatively small companies into roles that were not well defined. And so they weren't credentializing themselves, they weren't preventing, they weren't preparing themselves for a potential negative outcome. And so here's an idea. You graduate with a BA, let's say, at Western, and you go and join some company that has 20 people around the table. It's exciting, they give you options, it's great. You dream, the guy who's the founder of it probably sells you, or the woman who's the founder sells you on this division. Usually they're very good at selling you on their vision, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna learn so much, and you go in. But what I was pointing out is that a lot of these larger programs at larger companies have formal training programs that take you through and really help you learn how businesses work. They've spent years and years and tens of millions of dollars perfecting these programs, and they give you exposure and access to so much. And if you go to the startup and it fails, then you're 2 years out of college with no job and not a huge amount of relevant experience. It's hard to get a job. You go to GE and work in their rotational business program, and you spend time learning how to build lights, and then at NBC, and then at GE Finance. You have 2 more years to figure out what you want to do and how you want to do it. And so I was only pointing out that people shouldn't rush too much into, how do I think this? Think about it like if you're playing cards, it's ideal to play your card last. Right? You want to see how everyone else bets, how everyone else thinks. And you want to keep your optionality open as much as possible. And so people have a tendency to jump in and do things right away, but you don't have an unlimited amount of plays, right?
Right.
So your optionality goes down. So my advice was, and look, not everyone's able to get into one of those programs. Not everyone's able to go to New York. People have to do what they can to survive and to get good jobs. But if you're speaking specifically to those people who have lots of optionality and don't know what they want to do, my advice is to go and get beat up at a large firm for a little bit. You develop great network, you develop great resume and brand, you really learn, and they know how to teach you, and they know how to support and help you, and there's a group of peers that go through these programs with you. They're really well structured, and I think now more than ever, if you're leaving school with a BA and you don't know what you want to do, it's almost like another 2 years of education. I was lucky enough to be in New York, so it was also really fun to live in New York for a few years.
Right.
A lot of the people I know that went through those programs had more time to figure out what they wanted to do. And I was just talking to a young guy who works for me today, and he's in second or third year school, and he's like, I've done a month at in your intro program, and now I want to be a sales guy. And I was like, well, it's early to know that that's what you want. Like, I hope that you do find that. But be careful not to jump in too quickly before you understand what other things are like.
Really good point. And so after you finished in New York at Goldman Sachs, could you talk about the process of joining KEV Group in such a high leadership role and how you're feeling at the time, especially because you were leaving New York?
It's a loaded question. So first of all, there's a little bit of history here. So after I left New York, I went back to Toronto, and I was lucky enough to meet Alana. We've been married now for 16 years, and we have 2 wonderful kids, one of whom goes to school here. I worked at a hedge fund for a period of time in Toronto, and then after that I went to business school in Boston at Harvard, and I did a summer at private equity. And so I was still going down the path of finance. I wasn't sure what else I wanted to do, and by the second year at Harvard was really back to my first point about what you learn in your life. I really started to build confidence in my own abilities. By the time I went back to second year business school, I decided that I wanted that feeling of like, give me the ball, give me the opportunity. I felt like I understood the world a little bit better, and there was a few factors that led to me leaving the finance world and joining, it wasn't a startup, let's call it a startup. First of all, I looked at a lot of the people who have spent their lives in finance, and it was hard for me to reconcile that with the fact that I was getting married in a few months, and that I wanted to have kids, and I wanted to be around for them in a certain amount away. The entrepreneurship life didn't give me much of that either, but it has recently. But I had at least more control over my own schedule. That was important to me. So work-life balance is a weird way to say it because I didn't have much. I worked a ton, but control is probably a better way to say it. But the other one is I wanted, the way I frame it now, although this is in retrospect, but the way I frame it now is I wanted to build a business as opposed to trading other people's businesses, right? Like private equity, hedge funds, a lot of the finance world is fascinating, by the way. I love it. A lot of my friends do it, but it's a world where there's a lot of trading other people's assets.
Right.
And I wanted to build my own company of some nature. So I met with a lot of people. I was lucky enough to meet with one guy who was the investor in KEV Group, and I found this incredible business. And I fell in love with the 2 ladies who ran it, with the mission that the business was, with the product, what we were doing, and with also the investor was just an incredible mentor. It became an incredible mentor and a guy I really looked up to. So I decided after I graduated from second year business school, I got married. We went on a honeymoon, and then as soon as I got back, I started at KEV. And Alana was pregnant with Brody at the time, so like it was a pretty crazy time. I moved back to Boston at the same time. It was a very intense time in my life, and I joined KEV, which was in Cambridge, Ontario. So I was commuting out to Cambridge every day, or every other day, and the business was very small, maybe 10 people, but they had an amazing product, an amazing mission. They cared desperately about providing value to their customers, and I was like, oh, this is very different than the way my banking world was, and it really resonated with me. And I was hired as the COO. Actually, I wasn't the CEO then, and I was hired then.
Wow. And then as you joined the company, what would you say at the time you felt was the biggest challenge for you?
So the biggest challenge for me is that I had no idea what I was doing, right? Like none. Like I had worked as a financial analyst at a hedge fund. I'd done a summer job at a private equity firm. I'd done 2 years of banking. I only had 3 years experience, but I'd never managed a person before. And all of a sudden I was the COO, and then 6 months later I was the CEO of a business. We now have, over 250 people. So like my job is effectively a people manager. I had never done that before. I didn't really know the technology world at all, but it was a SaaS company that had a product. It was enormously big for me to learn how to have confidence, how to operate in that world, how to have empathy and sympathy for various people in their roles, and understand what they were doing, understand how to help them, understand how to create culture at a business, understand how to help our customers, how to build great product. I mean, it's just a long list. I'm still learning every minute to this day. Like it's my favorite part of the job. The business itself was small, very small, and businesses that are small usually raise capital from venture capital firms and sit on a lot of cash, and that allows them to hire people. But it wasn't the path I chose for KEV for a lot of reasons. And instead, I focused on generating cash flow and creating a profitable business very early on in my career, which meant that we didn't have a lot of people. So we had to have really good mission-dedicated, hard-working people who cared desperately about our customers and about what we were doing and about building a culture, because for years we didn't have more than 20 or 30 people. It's very hard to operate a company. We had 4,000 schools when I joined, so they already had a ton of schools. They had a great product. Very hard to do that at scale. The stress level was enormous. I didn't realize it until a little bit later about how much stress it put on me and on my family, but it was a lot.
And I'm sure obviously your business experience had helped with that, but do you feel that your undergraduate degree of psychology also helped you with running the business and creating a culture of strong, interconnected people?
It's a good question. I don't know the answer. It's hard to tell. I think just experience. Like I think most things in life, like you just start and you just go, and you have to have an attitude of being humble enough to listen. You can't have a lot of ego. You have to understand that God is what's important, that family is what's important. You have to humble yourself enough to know that you need to learn every day. It's hard because at the same time, when you're a leader, you have to instill confidence, and you have to make decisions that impact a lot of people's lives. You have to walk that line there. I don't think any degree can help you with that. I think ethical leaders can help you. Having advisors who show you the way and give you guidance. I was lucky, as I said, my mentor, Rick, he helped me a lot along the way. My father and mother helped me a lot. Eventually, my little brother, who also bought a business and grew it, he has helped me a lot. Alana has helped me a lot. My wife, like just people around me have given me guidance. You need people around you who will tell you honestly the truth. They won't beat around the bush. They will give you direct feedback. They will push you. I think that's true for every aspect of your life. Social aspects, I sang a cappella, that helped. I think I played rugby, that helped. I was involved in student politics, that helped. I was involved in religious causes, that helped. I had done a bunch of charity work. That actually helped probably the most, because I was able to take some leadership roles in that and learn how to raise capital and learn how to motivate people.
What type of things would you do during this time while you were learning that you feel really enabled you to learn better? And I understand it was very much experimental learning, but how could you go through that process every day and learn every single day? What concrete things do you think you did?
A few things. So 2 things come to mind, maybe more. So first of all, everyone is a product. My dad used to say, you are who you hang around with. He was right. I am who my team is, right? Surrounding myself with team members, not just senior team members, the whole business, who you can learn from is really important. And most leaders that are successful are smart enough to listen and learn. And if you surround yourself with amazing people, like even now I meet people at my company, and they do a role, and you ask them about them, and you're like, oh, what do you do in your spare time? And they're like, oh, I'm an artist. Do you want to see some of my stuff? And they show you these incredible works. Like, people are really inspiring and really unbelievable. And if you surround yourself with incredible people, you can learn a lot about life, about business, about success. The other thing that I started doing later in life is some just small, short meditations and breathings. That helps me a lot. It helps me separate emotion from decision making. To take it sort of a level more abstract, the stimulus and the response, you have to put a break there. There's a lot of things that happen that can get you emotionally charged. An investor calls and is unhappy, or someone quits, or a customer is unhappy, or you didn't meet a goal that you set out for. And acting emotionally is the opposite of, I think, what you want to do. You want to be authentic, you want to have heart, but you don't want to react at your first primal instinct. And learning how to put a separation between the initial stimulus and your reaction and behavior is critical. I would say, by the way, it's critical for my sons who are in 10th and 8th grade. Like, it's critical in all aspects of life. It's critical in sports. But for me in leadership, learning how to do breathing and self-reflection and how to calm down has been very beneficial. And I've actually found that it's made me a much more calm human being in general. Like, I need it less to achieve that. So again, it's interesting. We can talk a lot about product strategy, about revenue generation and go-to-market strategy, but I think, at least from the CEO seat, a huge amount of what I deal with is interpersonal and how to be the best human being I can be so that people want to be around me and trust me. When new people come to the company, I always thank them for trusting me, and I tell them that I accept the responsibility and understand the gravity of what they're asking of me, because someone is entrusting me with their entire livelihood, that I'm going to do right by them as an individual, as a company, etc. I think it's important for leaders to know that and to act ethically, both inside and outside their business, and be the kind of person that people say, oh, I work at KEV, and I'm so proud to work for that person. And it's incumbent upon me to try to become that person and to embody those values as much as possible.
As a leader at KEV, do you feel like to create that strong community that you strive to be, and to be that person that you strive to be, it's crucial to create connections with everyone you're working with, no matter their role? And how do you go about doing that? Obviously, you're incredibly busy. So what do you do to create those connections?
I'll give you 2 examples from today. The first thing is, I have 2 one-hour sessions with all my new employees that I talk about the business, the strategy, etc. And then afterwards, I do just a short 15 to 30-minute meeting with every new employee that comes in. We don't talk much about business. We talk more about what they want out of life, why they chose here, what their family's life, etc. What their family's like. The individual relationships are worth so much, and there's nothing that supplants that. You can't. Eventually, the business might reach a scale where that's not possible, but I'm not there yet, and I hope I never lose that individual connection. But I actually had a new thing happen to me just this last few weeks, where first time one of my employees passed away. It's really sad. One of my employees in the States got terrible form of cancer and very quickly died. And I sent an email out immediately to the company, but I didn't think it was enough. And then we had an all-hands meeting today, and I got up and talked about my relationship with Jamie and what it was like, and what he was like in the last days of his life, and what he wanted to be remembered by. And there was no business reason for that, so to speak. It wasn't like strategic. It was just human. Like, people worked with Jamie. He was an amazing guy, and you can't just send an email around when someone dies. Like, it just didn't feel right to me. Yeah. I think those kind of things go a long way. I would say this: the most important thing, at least I found for me, I try my hardest, is authenticity. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I don't mind tearing up when I get emotional, like sad. I try to expose parts of myself that, like emotionally, that other people might not in my same role. I have found that it allows other people to do the same, to create meaningful relationships with people. It inspires trust that is material and real, and those things become really valuable because the interconnected bonds of my team and my company, I think, are very tight, and it leads to all kinds of great outcomes, both outcomes like business outcomes, like our ENPS is high or that our turnover is low, things like that, but also human outcomes, like I spend more time with my team half the time than I do at home, like at least during the 5 days at work, right? I'm at home for only a few hours when everyone's awake, and I'm at work for 9-10 hours every day. So, you got to like the people you're with, and they have to like you. Otherwise, life is too short. Look at Jamie, like one of my guys. He wasn't that old, and he died. You can't spend your whole life chasing some goal and not enjoying your day-to-day. You have to love what you do. I think you love what you do by accomplishment, and I think you accomplish by having great people around you.
Would you say that is the way to create meaning in your life, in your work life, is by finding people around you that have common values and surrounding yourself with them?
Finding meaning is very hard. I think most of it comes from inside. So I don't think about work meaning versus outside. Maybe that's just a luxury of the position I'm in now later in life. Maybe I wouldn't have thought that earlier in my career, but more and more meaning for me comes from God and connection with human beings. It comes with trying to suppress ego and trying to listen to other people and trying to learn. But ultimately, the most satisfaction I get in my life comes from accomplishment. And I think accomplishment for me means doing things that I didn't think I was able to do. So when I'm able to look over my shoulder and say, boy, I climbed that mountain, the metaphorical mountain, I should climb more physical mountains, but the metaphorical mountain, and I look over my shoulder and I see where I've come from. It's like at camp, right? Like you finish a portage and every step is murder. And you get to the end and you put the canoe off your shoulders and you sit down and take a drink of water, and like that moment there, that is pure satisfaction. That is pure accomplishment. And you feel so good. And then if you're able to help other people along the journey and help them with the paddles when they fall down and support them, then it's so much more meaningful, right? Because you form this bond with this group of people you're with, and you go, look what we've all accomplished together, and that is amazing. And by the way, it's the same in your personal life. You do it with your wife and your kids, and you accomplish things, you go through things together, hard moments, learnings, meaningful celebrations, or like we just finished the Jewish New Year. You go through those experiences with people, and when you come back and you look over your shoulder, you're like, look at how meaningful my life is. And then the last thing I'll just say is, like, it has become very important for me to take moments of gratitude, to remember how lucky I am, to remember how amazing it is to have all these amazing people around me. I have a wife that loves me. I have beautiful kids. I have the opportunity to sit with you here. Like, these things are genuinely awesome. Life is genuinely awesome, right? And it's short, and it's incumbent upon all of us to just try to soak in as much as we can.
As a member on the board of governors at Huron, what is one thing that you think every single applicant should be doing?
The motto of Huron is leadership with heart. So I think you should look at the parts of that motto, the leadership and the heart part, that are unique. I think Huron, first of all, Huron's an incredibly competitive university. So, like, to get in, you just have to do really well in school, right? Like, that's really important. And in the Ontario system, I think it's probably the most important thing, right? So to get in, I don't have a ton of advice. To be the kind of person that would thrive at Huron, to get the most out of Huron, I would pivot the question and say that they want people who are going to help make an impact on the world. That doesn't have to be financial. In fact, probably preferable that it isn't. It's a broader concept behind that. Do you care about Canada? Do you care about leading in Canada? Are you the kind of person that wants to make a difference in your country? Do you care about in the individual, one-on-one? Are you the kind of person that stops when someone is injured and help them? It's about being an ethical, good human being. That's the hard part. And are you the kind of person that wants to lead? And you want to help change the world? I would say that's it. I would say Huron believes that there is right and wrong. They believe in truth. They try their best to educate kids to think critically, and to open up their eyes to a broader world. A lot of them don't have that perspective when they come. They have international students. They have unbelievable co-op programs. I mean, it's just, I can't say enough about Huron, and the leadership is incredible. The board is incredible. Barry, the president of the school, is absolutely amazing. His wife Sarah is amazing. I can just say, if you are the kind of person that wants to make Canada a better place, that wants to make an impact on the community around you, and wants to learn how to learn, Huron is the best place that I have found so far in Canada to do that, and I'm so honored to be associated with it.
And then our final question, we're asking everyone that comes on the show this. What is one Jewish value that you hold that you think was critical to your success?
It's the core of everything, which is the belief in God. To me, it is a constant reminder that I am just a humble servant on the earth trying to do what's right, that you should be patient, that you should listen to other people, that you should help people, that you should give your time to charity. We didn't talk a lot about charity, but charity is a huge part of my life right now, and spending time doing nonprofit work. All of that stems from the belief in God. The rest of it is, tikkun olam and all these other pieces that come, community, they're all important. But at the core of all Judaism is the belief in God. So that's my answer.
Amen. Okay, Bram, thank you so much. It was an amazing podcast. We're so happy to have you.
Thanks, Avery. It was awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.